Let's begin building the arms. Because of our character's make, we're not going to need a shoulder control at all. We will have a shoulder pad, but as far as a shoulder control is concerned, we won't need that because of his chest plate. That's really limiting the amount of movement he can have from his shoulder, so it's not going to be necessary at all to have. Keeping that in mind, it's also going to be best to draw out the arm here in the top view so we'll have the right preferred angle. So let's go ahead and go to our top view, and we'll go to our joint tool and begin drawing. And again, if you need to, you can go ahead and hide the grid if that helps to clear anything up. But we'll draw out the arm, going from the root of the arm. The next we'll draw is for the elbow. Then we'll draw one for the forearm twist. And then we'll end right where the hand's rotation begins. Okay, so here's our arm bones. We can hit enter. From there, we can go ahead and move them up. So, we can go to a front view for that, and with the root still selected, we'll just bring it up. And I'd like to line it up so at least the hand bone is centered within the hand. And bring it down just a little bit here. That'll be fine. Okay, and then from here we can work on renaming our objects. So the root here, well, this is going to be labeled BN_L_arm 01. Can copy this name, go to the elbow, paste, and switch arm with elbow. Okay, and then for the forearm twist bone, we could just call that twist. No need to write out forearm at all. You can if you like, but I like to keep my names as short as I can. That helps when writing expressions, just to quickly set the expression rather than writing a whole sentence. Okay. Alrighty, so we have our bones labeled. Okay, and for this hand I have labeled it BN because it will be part of the character's bind. So now that this is done, let's go ahead and work on drawing out the fingers. Again, what we can do is go into our top view, go to our joint tool, and we can start with the thumb. Draw one for the base of the thumb, then the midpoint, then the end pivot, and then we'll draw one at the end of the thumb to finish the chain. Alrighty, great. And now that brings us to our index. Now when drawing out the fingers, especially or primarily for game characters, we're not going to want to draw out one for each finger. That's not going to be necessary at all. Just the primary fingers, really. So we'll draw out one for the index as well. When it comes to the mid and the ring finger, we'll use one chain for that. So we can go ahead and just draw out looking at a midpoint between both fingers. Great, and that's going to control the rotation of both fingers. So that's going to be just fine. And then for the pinky, we can draw one out for it. Okay. And when you're placing your bones, look at where the edge loops are. Really pay close attention to the character's topology, because that's going to help you to make sure that your deformations are going to be correct. Alright, so now that we have these bones in place, let's go ahead and work on repositioning them. We'll select each root, go to our Move tool, select the Translate Y, and simply snap to the pivot of our hand bone, just in the Y. So make sure that the Y is selected. If you need to, you can go back to template mode with the character, hold V and middle mouse button click, and drag right by that bone to snap them up. Alright, excellent. So now we can work on repositioning our bones. Can select our root bone here for the thumb, and go to the attribute editor. Rather than rotating the bones with the manipulator, what's going to be a better solution to do so that we can maintain the zero rotation is to actually use our joint orient attributes. That's going to allow us to move their pivot while, again, not influencing our actual transform data. So you want to try to keep your bones zeroed out if you can. There are times that that may not happen, but it's not too big of a deal, but it will lead to a more comfortable workflow if they are zeroed out. So with the root selected, we can go ahead and start moving the joint orient. We'll hold Control, hold the left mouse button, and drag in this attribute until we have lowered the bone. Okay. And here's an example where, alright, after we've moved the Z, the X, as we move that, it's really not going to do too much for us, so it probably wouldn't hurt to add a little bit of rotation to this root here. So we'll go ahead and just bring this down into place. Maybe even roll it in the X a little bit and then bring it down in the Z. And because of the set-driven key we're going to add to the fingers, again, the rotation on this joint is not going to bother us. So that'll be just fine. Alright, excellent. And then if you wanted to, you can go to the ring fingers root here, or the mid and ring fingers root, and even move this using the joint orient. So if we went there and moved in the Y, just shifting it so that it's more centered. Now, if you notice, again, none of our rotate attributes have been updated. So it's a very helpful tool for that reason. Alright, so let's go ahead and work on renaming these. You can start with the thumb. That's BN_L_THA01. No need to spell out the whole name. And the A just lets us know where it lies in the hierarchy. So that's the top. Then we go to the next thumb bone, and that's going to be the THB01. The next is C. And the last, that's a BE bone, not going to be enveloped. So that's BE, and that will be D. Okay, so we have our bones renamed. We can go ahead and move on to the next, our index. We'll paste, switch our TH to an IND. Then we can copy this. Alright, so once we hit enter to set the name, we'll go to the next bone, paste, and simply switch the A to a B. Continuing with the same naming scheme here for the fingers. And that brings us to our last, which is BE L underscore IND and D. Alrighty, well, now that brings us to the mid. We could just label this mid. So that's, rather than IND, we'll switch that to a mid. We've copied from the last bone. Go to the next paste. And switch the name. We'll paste this, switch its name. And that brings us to the last bone here. So we switch that around. And also our prefix. Alright, so now that leaves us to the last bone here. That's the pinky. So we'll paste. We can switch mid to PKY to abbreviate that. Select the name, copy it, and just paste it down the line. Okay, and then that brings us to our last. Alright, wonderful. So now once our bones have been renamed, we know that we want all of these to follow our hand bone, so we can select each root, then select our hand bone last, and simply press P. So now we can have our character wave. Great. Well, now that this is done, what we'll do is stop the lesson here, and we'll continue building this arm, the controls for it, in the next lesson.